Morning breaks quietly in the small town of Maplewood, Massachusetts. Amelia Barnes wakes up 5 minutes before her alarm clock, as usual. The right side of the bed is empty, with just a slight indentation still visible on the pillow. Even now, 3 years later, she sometimes thinks Timothy has just woken up early and is making coffee in the kitchen. In the soft October light streaming through the window, Amelia gazes at the wall of her bedroom where Timothy's photograph hangs. His warm smile, surrounded by kids from the local high school basketball team. He passed away suddenly at 37 from a heart attack. Working as a teacher while establishing and running an after-school program called Second Chance for underprivileged children, he was a small hero in the community. "Another anniversary is approaching," Amelia whispered to the photograph. "No one has forgotten you." While drinking coffee in the kitchen, Amelia was checking her schedule for the day. As a successful real estate agent, she had some control over her time. She had plans to meet her sister Rebecca in the afternoon. Rebecca had only told her that she had something important to discuss. Rebecca worked at a local advertising agency. 3 months ago, she had just gotten engaged to James Howard, a successful businessman. Amelia expected that important discussion would be about wedding plans. In the afternoon, when she entered the most sophisticated cafe in town at the appointed time, Rebecca was already waiting at a window seat. With her perfect blonde hair and refined clothing, she always attracted attention. "Amelia. Finally, you're here." Rebecca stood up and lightly kissed her sister. "I know you're busy, but I couldn't possibly discuss something this important over the phone." Amelia smiled, ordered coffee, and asked, "So, what's this important matter?"
Can you imagine making $10,000 a month just from YouTube, all from home? That's exactly what I did with Reddit stories. No face, no voice. Check the link in the description if you're curious.
"Have you set a date for your wedding with James?" Rebecca nodded happily. "Yes. We've chosen a wonderful day. December 15th. The theme is Winter Wonderland, with a snow-white wedding dress and snowflake motifs. Isn't that lovely?" Amelia nearly dropped her coffee cup. December 15th. The anniversary of Timothy's death. Every year on that day, she held a small memorial gathering with Timothy's former colleagues and students. December 15th. Amelia's voice trembled. "But Rebecca, that's the anniversary of Timothy's death." Rebecca's expression clouded momentarily, but she quickly waved her hand dismissively. "Oh, that's right. But the community center was only available on that day. Besides, it's been 3 years already. You can't keep dwelling on the past forever, can you? But couldn't you change it to another day?" Amelia asked quietly. "We hold a gathering every year on that day to remember Timothy." "My goodness. Isn't my most important day more significant than some small gathering?" Rebecca raised her voice. "Besides, Timothy isn't coming back. We should prioritize the happiness of the living." Amelia didn't try to hide her wounded heart. "Is that really how you feel? Timothy was someone who impacted many lives in this town. Is it so difficult to respect the anniversary of his death? There's no value in a dead person anymore, is there?" Rebecca said coldly. "My wedding is more important. And Mom and Dad agree with me." Amelia was shocked to hear this. "Mom and Dad? They already know." "Of course. I told them yesterday. Dad and Mom said, if you care so much about the anniversary, why don't you just stay at the cemetery all day?" Rebecca smiled triumphantly. Martha and Richard Barnes had always doted on Rebecca, prioritizing her wishes. Even when Amelia married Timothy, they had said, "You could have found a better husband than a high school teacher." After Timothy's death, they never took Amelia's grief seriously, constantly telling her, "You're still young, you should think about remarrying." "I understand," Amelia stood up. "It seems you, Dad, and Mom can't comprehend my feelings or Timothy's impact. I won't attend the wedding, but you'll regret this." Rebecca was dumbfounded. You won't attend your own sister's wedding? You must be joking. I'm not joking. I choose to spend Timothy's anniversary with people who loved and respected him. That's my choice. Amelia took money from her wallet, placed it on the table, and left the cafe. Her heart was aching, but her determination was firm. Getting into her car, she took out her cell phone and called Mark Johnson, Timothy's former colleague. Mark? It's Amelia. I need to talk about the gathering for Timothy's anniversary. I want to do something special this year. Amelia took a deep breath, preparing herself for the battle ahead. The next morning, Amelia started her activities early. She sat at the living room table, opening Timothy's old address book. It contained the names and contact information of his former colleagues and particularly close students. The small memorial service she had started 3 years ago had grown in attendance year by year, testament to Timothy's significant influence. This year needs to be special, Amelia murmured to herself while taking notes. She had planned to use the community center, but that was now impossible. Instead, she was considering Maplewood Lakeside Park, where Timothy often took his students. The phone rang, indicating a call from Martha. Amelia hesitated momentarily but answered. Good morning, Mom. Amelia, Rebecca called me yesterday crying about what happened. Martha's voice was accusatory. Are you really planning to boycott your sister's wedding? That's shameful behavior for a family member. Amelia took a deep breath. Mom, December 15th is the anniversary of Timothy's death. Rebecca knew that and deliberately chose that day. Goodness. It's about time you forgot about a dead person. Martha made no attempt to hide her irritation. You can't move forward because you're clinging to the past. Meanwhile, Rebecca is starting a new life. Timothy isn't the past. His presence still lives in many people in this town. Amelia's voice was quiet but conveyed strong determination. I wish Rebecca happiness. But that day is for remembering my husband. Well, if the anniversary is so important, why don't you spend all day in front of his grave? Martha's cold sneer was evident even over the phone. We'll celebrate our daughter's special day. If you don't come, that's your choice. After hanging up, Amelia couldn't move for a while. It hurt deeply to realize that for her parents, Timothy's anniversary was insignificant. Yet, her determination remained unshaken. That afternoon, Amelia met with Kevin Washington, a former student who had been a core member of Timothy's Second Chance program. Now a college student, he continued volunteer work in Timothy's spirit. A wedding on teacher's anniversary. That's not right, Mrs. Barnes, Kevin frowned. All of us who went to college thanks to teacher cherished that day. Thank you, Kevin. But it's a family choice. We are teachers' family too, Kevin said with a serious expression. Sometimes family without blood ties can be more important. That's what teacher taught us. At those words, Amelia's eyes welled up a little. As the weeks passed, plans for Timothy's memorial service progressed steadily. Amelia reserved the pavilion at the Lakeside Park and created invitations for the gathering. The invitations sent to Timothy's former colleagues, students, and community members he had supported read, December 15th, a gathering to remember the love and legacy of Timothy Barnes. Meanwhile, preparations for Rebecca's wedding were also progressing. The local newspaper featured it prominently as the town's most anticipated wedding between the Howard and Barnes families. Amelia's heart ached each time she read about it, but she remained determined to follow her own path. 2 weeks before the wedding, an unexpected visitor came to Amelia's house. When she opened the door, there stood James Howard, Rebecca's fiancé. Tall with a businessman's demeanor, he seemed a bit nervous. Mrs. Barnes, may I have a moment of your time? Amelia invited him in and served coffee in the living room. She had met James a few times but never had a deep conversation with him. I want to ask you frankly, why won't you attend our wedding? James looked directly at Amelia. Rebecca says she doesn't care, but it seems like something important to me. Amelia was a bit surprised. Rebecca hadn't even told her fiancé the truth. James, December 15th is the anniversary of my husband Timothy's death. It's been 3 years since he passed away, Amelia explained quietly. Every year on that day, we hold a gathering to remember him. He was a teacher and a community supporter who influenced many people. James's expression changed. I see. Rebecca told me, my sister is a bit odd and can't sincerely be happy for others. I want my sister to be happy. But I want to spend that day for Timothy. James fell silent thoughtfully, then slowly said, Timothy Barnes, that name sounds familiar. He was a teacher at Maplewood High School, wasn't he? Yes, that's right. James stood up, frowning curiously. I'll think about this. I truly apologize, but I didn't fully understand the situation. After he left, Amelia's cell phone began receiving message after message. They were from people who had received invitations to Timothy's memorial service. Many expressed confusion with messages like, "It's the same day as the wedding, what should we do?" Some messages also noted, "It feels uncomfortable that there's a wedding on teacher's anniversary." That evening, while shopping at the supermarket, Amelia encountered Sarah Johnson, Timothy's former colleague. "Amelia, the whole town is talking about this," Sarah said in a low voice. "Many people are expressing discomfort about scheduling a wedding on Timothy's anniversary. Especially the young people who were influenced by him." "I don't want conflict, Sarah," Amelia said with a tired expression. "I just want to honor my husband's anniversary." The morning of December 15th dawned with a clear blue sky. The previous day's snow lightly covered the entire town, creating exactly the winter wonderland atmosphere Rebecca had wanted. Amelia had been up since early morning. Dressed in a simple black dress, she gazed at Timothy's photograph. "Today is your day," she whispered. Maplewood Cemetery was on the north side of town, on a hill overlooking the area. When Amelia arrived, several people had already gathered. A light snow had accumulated on Timothy's gravestone, and someone had placed a single red rose on top. "Good morning, Amelia," Mark Johnson approached. Timothy's close friend and colleague had been a major support for Amelia in continuing the memorial gatherings. "Today will be a special day." As time passed, more and more people gathered at the cemetery. Timothy's former colleagues, students, and families who had received support through his program. Everyone quietly remembered him and offered words to Amelia. "Mr. Barnes changed my life," Kevin said in a small speech. "Without him, I wouldn't be here today." Meanwhile, at the community center, wedding preparations were entering their final stage. White and silver decorations adorned the entire venue, and a large photograph of Rebecca and James was displayed at the entrance. Rebecca was in a dedicated room, making final adjustments to her wedding dress. "It will be a perfect day," Rebecca nodded with satisfaction at her reflection in the mirror. "James's father is preparing a speech." "Wonderful." One of the bridesmaids hesitantly asked, "Is Amelia really not coming?" "She's not. She only ever thinks about herself," Rebecca answered coldly. "She's always tried to ruin my shining moments. But today is different, today is my day." Martha, her mother, opened the door and looked at her daughter with tears in her eyes. "You are truly beautiful. You'll be the most radiant bride in town today." "And Amelia?" Richard asked as he entered the room. "I told you she's not coming." Rebecca raised her voice. "She's at that cemetery having some strange gathering. It's laughable." Richard sighed. "She was always the odd one. Let's not worry about her today. This is Rebecca's day." Past noon, invited guests began gathering at the community center. The hall filled with over 200 people. Many local dignitaries had been invited, as Rebecca and James were from two of the wealthiest families in town. Meanwhile, the memorial service at the cemetery continued quietly. About 30 people surrounded Timothy's gravestone as his favorite poems were read and memories were shared. He was a man who valued the happiness of others more than his own life, Amelia spoke with a trembling voice. That's why we've gathered today, to remember him. Glancing at her cell phone, Amelia noticed a message from an unknown number. Today's wedding has a stranger atmosphere than I imagined. Many people are concerned about your absence. And it seems there might be an unexpected development. Matthew. Matthew was James's college friend and today's best man. Amelia had never met him but wondered why he had contacted her. The wedding began at 2 in the afternoon. Rebecca, escorted by her father Richard, walked down the aisle to the wedding march. She was indeed beautiful. Her snow-white dress with snowflake motifs perfectly complemented her blonde hair. James waited for her at the altar. He looked slightly nervous but smiled at his bride. However, a careful observer might have noticed hesitation in his eyes. The ceremony proceeded smoothly, and the couple exchanged their vows. Rebecca's face bore a triumphant expression. For her, this marriage meant establishing her social status. The reception began, and champagne was served. The bride and groom made their rounds to each table, exchanging words with the guests. However, a strange tension hung in the air. Some guests were whispering among themselves, occasionally seeming to inquire about Amelia's absence. It's time for the toast, the MC announced. First, a speech from the best man, Matthew Carter. Matthew slowly stood up. He had an intellectual appearance. Taking his glass, he began to speak quietly. Today, we've gathered to celebrate the marriage of James and Rebecca. However, I cannot ignore that today is also special for another reason. The room fell silent. Rebecca's expression tensed, and she looked at her fiancé, but James was staring straight ahead. Today is December 15th, the third anniversary of Mr. Timothy Barnes's death. Without him, many of us here would be walking a different path in life. A murmur arose among the guests. Martha and Richard were dumbfounded, and Rebecca's face turned red with anger. I myself participated in Mr. Barnes's program during high school. With family problems and verging on delinquency, he saved me. Today, I stand here as a successful businessman in this town, but it's all thanks to him. When Matthew finished speaking, another guest stood up. I'd like to say something too, he said. My son was also saved by Mr. Barnes. Thanks to him, he went to college and is now a medical student. One after another, guests stood up. Many of them were people who had been directly or indirectly influenced by Timothy. The venue began to overflow with words of gratitude and remembrance for Timothy. Rebecca, unable to contain her anger, stood up. This is my wedding. We didn't gather here to talk about a dead person. Her words further froze the atmosphere of the room. Her mother Martha grabbed her arm, trying to make her sit down, but Rebecca shook her off. He's dead, he doesn't matter anymore. My wedding is more important, she shouted. Silence dominated the room. Then, the most unexpected person stood up, the groom himself, James Howard. Let me have my say too, his voice was quiet but resonated throughout the venue. Actually, I'm also one whose life was changed by Mr. Timothy Barnes. Rebecca stared at her fiancé in shock. Without looking at her, James continued. 15 years ago, I was a troubled teenager. Parents' divorce, financial difficulties. In the midst of that, I participated in Mr. Barnes's program and found direction in life. It's because of his teachings that I am here today. James looked around the room. I had doubts about holding this ceremony on the anniversary of his death, but I believed Rebecca when she said, "My sister doesn't mind." Now, knowing the truth, my heart aches. James looked at Rebecca. Her face showed a mix of fear and anger. Out of respect for Mr. Timothy Barnes's soul, I am postponing this wedding. The venue froze. Rebecca's scream echoed, and her parents were stunned. James continued quietly. Today, instead of celebrating our marriage, we should spend it commemorating the anniversary of a man who had a great impact on this town. Does anyone know where Amelia is? Matthew stood up. She's holding a memorial service at the cemetery. Many people have gathered there. James nodded with a determined expression. Then let's go to her. To pay our respects to Mr. Barnes. Rebecca, trembling with anger and humiliation, shouted, "Are you embarrassing me? Ruining my special day?" James looked at her sadly. This situation arose because you ignored your sister's feelings and chose a day that's special to many people. I cannot understand that choice. The venue was enveloped in chaos. Many guests stood up with James, showing their intention to head to the cemetery. Rebecca collapsed crying on her mother's shoulder, while Richard stood frozen with an expression full of anger. The community center was in turmoil. Minutes after James's declaration, more than half of the invited guests left the venue and headed for Maplewood Cemetery. Rebecca, left behind, was surrounded by her bridesmaids, trembling with tears and anger. "I can't believe it. This is supposed to be the best day of my life," she cried out. "Why would they do this?" Martha tried to comfort her daughter but was herself shaken. "What are they thinking? Abandoning a wedding?" Richard, his face red with anger, picked up his cell phone. "I'll contact James's father. We cannot accept such humiliation." But Mr. Howard was calm on the phone. "Richard, I've been updated on the situation. My son has also contacted me. I support his decision." "What?" Richard raised his voice. "The name Timothy Barnes is special to our family too," Mr. Howard said quietly. "You probably didn't know how much my son was influenced by him. But I too felt uncomfortable with the choice of date." After hanging up, Richard stood dumbfounded. For the first time, he began to understand the gravity of their actions when even the Howard family, their longtime friends, offered no understanding. Meanwhile, at Maplewood Cemetery, Amelia and the others were witnessing an astonishing sight. Formally dressed guests kept arriving at the cemetery, their number exceeding 100. Mark explained the situation to Amelia, but she could hardly believe it. "James canceled the wedding." Amelia gasped. "More like postponed," Mark said. "It turns out he was also one of Mr. Barnes's students." "Did you not know that either?" Amelia shook her head. This was an unexpected development for her too. At the cemetery entrance, a group appeared with James at the lead. He was still in his wedding attire. When his eyes met Amelia's, he slowly approached. "Mrs. Barnes, I apologize for meeting again under these circumstances," he bowed his head. "Actually, I was briefly enrolled at Maplewood High School 15 years ago. Due to family issues." "Wait." Amelia's eyes widened. "Jimmy Howard? Are you that Jimmy?" James nodded. "Yes, I was a troubled kid back then. My parents divorced, we were financially struggling, and I was about to give up on higher education when Mr. Timothy reached out. Thanks to his program, I received a scholarship and was able to go to college." Tears welled in Amelia's eyes. Timothy had often talked about a boy named Jimmy. A boy with extraordinary talent despite his difficult home environment. "You were that Jimmy. I changed my name 10 years ago. To start fresh in the business world," James explained. "Honestly, when I met Rebecca, I was surprised to learn her surname was Barnes. But she was reluctant to talk about you or Mr. Timothy." Best man Matthew approached. "Many people are saying they want to join the memorial service. Should we continue here at the cemetery? Or?" Amelia looked around. More and more people were gathering at the cemetery. "Let's return to the community center," she decided. That's what Timothy would have done. He always valued reconciliation and unity. And strangely enough, the community center that had been prepared for a wedding became the venue for Timothy Barnes's memorial service. With the white and silver decorations still in place, his photograph was displayed in the center. When they returned to the center, Rebecca and her parents were still there. Rebecca stood stunned, her makeup ruined, her eyes red. Seeing Amelia enter, her expression twisted with anger and humiliation. "Are you satisfied?" Rebecca said in a trembling voice. "Ruining the best day of my life." Amelia quietly approached her sister. "Rebecca, I didn't want it to turn out like this." "Liar. You said, you'll regret it, didn't you?" "I did say that, but I never imagined it would take this form," Amelia answered honestly. "I just wanted you to respect Timothy's anniversary." At this point, James approached Rebecca. "Rebecca, please let me explain." Rebecca glared at him. "What do you have to say? After embarrassing me? Seeing how you treated your sister, I realized our values don't align," James said quietly. "You're someone who can trample on what's important to others for your own desires." "What are you saying? What did I do?" "Deliberately scheduling a wedding on Mr. Timothy's anniversary. And not considering Amelia's feelings at all." James's voice was cold. "I cannot spend the rest of my life with such a person." The blood drained from Rebecca's face. With trembling lips, she said, "Are you breaking our engagement?" "I need time to think calmly right now," James answered. "Today, let's make it a day to remember Mr. Timothy." Martha and Richard listened to this conversation in stunned silence. Their social status and reputation would be significantly damaged by this incident. But what struck their hearts even more were the words of the many people gathered in the venue, speaking about Timothy. One by one, people who had been influenced by Timothy Barnes began to speak. How much he had done for the town, for the children, and for this community. Martha and Richard learned for the first time the true value of their son-in-law whom they had underestimated. Amelia stood on the stage and began to speak quietly. "Today, we've gathered to remember Timothy Barnes. As a teacher, mentor, and human being, he brought light to many people's lives." Her voice resonated throughout the venue. "He believed that blood ties alone do not make a family. True family is bonded by love, respect, and compassion." Many people nodded at Amelia's words. She continued, "Today, we gather here to confirm that bond. Timothy's spirit lives on in each one of us." In the corner of the room, Martha felt she was seeing her daughter's strength and dignity for the first time. And the tremendous influence of her son-in-law, whom she had underestimated for years. In Richard's eyes, colors of shame and regret appeared. Rebecca was now more confused than angry. Her planned wedding had completely changed direction. And she was made to realize that the person she had dismissed as a dead man was in fact a still living presence for many people. When Amelia's speech ended, people gathered around her, offering words of gratitude and support. On this day, she felt the presence of a true family beyond blood relations. Amelia stepped outside the venue alone. The cold winter air caressed her cheeks. She looked up at the sky and smiled. "You connected many people again today, Timothy," she whispered. "Thank you." 6 months later, in early summer, Maplewood High School's auditorium was overflowing with people. Amelia Barnes stood on the platform, explaining the expansion plans for Timothy's educational support program, Second Chance. "Today, we are honored to announce the official launch of the Timothy Barnes Memorial Foundation." Amelia's voice was filled with confidence. "This program will not only provide educational opportunities for economically disadvantaged children but also offer comprehensive support including emotional care." Loud applause erupted from the audience. James Howard was seated in the front row. After breaking off his engagement, he had become an enthusiastic supporter of Amelia's work to continue Timothy's legacy. A friendship had blossomed between them, with occasional hints of something more. The foundation's activities were gaining attention beyond the town, throughout the entire state. Amelia had found her mission in continuing her husband's legacy, spreading his name and philosophy. Meanwhile, Rebecca, unable to recover from the humiliation of the broken engagement, had moved to Boston 3 months earlier. She had cut off contact with Amelia and started a new life. Occasional letters from her mother mentioned that she had begun working at a marketing company and was gradually recovering. Martha and Richard Barnes were paying the price of a decline in their social standing. Many of their former friends were disappointed by what had happened at their daughter's wedding and how they had dismissed Timothy's anniversary. However, this experience had brought them humility. After Amelia's presentation, Martha approached hesitantly. "That's a wonderful project, Amelia." "Thank you, Mom," Amelia replied, somewhat surprised. "We were wrong," Martha said, stumbling over her words. "About Timothy, about you. We never tried to understand." Amelia nodded silently. A year later, on the 4th anniversary of Timothy's death, Martha and Richard also attended the memorial service. Belatedly, they were beginning to understand their son-in-law's humanity and the magnitude of the legacy he had left. Only Rebecca did not attend, but a small bouquet was delivered to the grave, with her name on the card. It was a small sign of reconciliation. Amelia and James stood hand in hand at the graveside. The two had slowly nurtured their relationship, finding Timothy's spirit in each other. "He's still connecting us," Amelia whispered. As the last light fell on the cemetery, Amelia looked back. The people gathered for Timothy's memorial, his students, colleagues, and now her parents too. She was surrounded by family. Family connected by heart, if not by blood. "Blood ties alone don't make a family," Timothy's words echoed in Amelia's heart. She smiled, ready to take a new step forward.